The life of Eric Clapton has been filled with great music success stories, but also deep personal struggles. From battles with addiction to tragic losses and troubling revelations about his past. In an interview in 1999, Clapton, one of the most famous musicians in the world, told about the terrible thing he did. He confessed to sexually assaulting his ex-wife Pattie Boyd in the 70s when he was battling drug and alcohol addiction. Pattie Boyd, the former model, was not a stranger to heartbreak before her marriage to Clapton. She was earlier married to George Harrison of the Beatles for 10 years. After their breakup, she was attracted to Harrison's friend, Eric Clapton. It was like they were living their own fairy tale, but the reality was that it was a nightmare. In a recent interview with Starts at 60, Boyd opened up on her pain after discovering Eric had fathered 2 children with other women he'd had affairs with during their marriage, while she was struggling through IVF in an attempt to have her own kids. Clapton's problems with alcohol did not only limit themselves to his personal life, but also influenced his public persona. In 1976, during a concert in Birmingham, England, Clapton went on a racist rant, using racial slurs and making inflammatory statements about immigrants. In later interviews and his autobiography, he said that he was under the influence of substance abuse at that time. However, many fans felt that he was not fully taking the responsibility for his actions by blaming it on drugs and alcohol. His addiction problem started in the early 1970s when he developed an addiction to heroin. Even though he was able to kick the heroin habit, he continued to battle alcohol and cocaine addiction for years. It wasn't until 1987 that Clapton finally found success in rehab and began his journey to sobriety. Clapton's experiences with addiction led him to establish the Crossroads Center in 1998. This treatment center is situated on the Caribbean island of Antigua, and it seeks to assist other people who have a problem with alcohol and drug dependency. Tragedy struck Clapton's life once again in 1991 when his little boy Connor, who was only 4 years old, died in a really bad accident. The young boy fell from the 53rd floor window of a New York City apartment building. The circumstances surrounding the incident remain somewhat unclear. Some say Connor was by himself, others say his nanny was with him. Either way, it was a terrible thing for Clapton to go through. The loss of his son devastated Clapton, and he spoke about his grief during a BBC radio appearance. In the aftermath of the tragedy, he sought solace in isolation. Once the funeral was over, he went to live by himself in a little house on an island called Antigua. He stayed there for about a year, not seeing many people. He mostly just played his guitar and kept to himself. Many people think that the reason for the disturbed actions of Eric Clapton is the numerous tragedies in his life. He was deserted by his father, Edward Fryer, a Canadian soldier who left for Canada before Clapton was born and never came back. Clapton did not even find out his father's name until much later in his life. This lack deprived him of the affection and father figure that most need in their formative years. At age 8, Clapton's world was further shaken when he learned the truth about his parentage. He had been raised believing that his grandparents were his parents and that his mother, Pat, was his older sister. The revelation that Pat was, in fact, his mother, left him feeling rejected when she continued to insist that he address his grandparents as his parents. Tragedy continued to strike when Clapton's half-brother Brian died in a car accident at just 26 years old. Losing Brian was really hard for Clapton, on top of everything else he'd been through. All these tough times in Clapton's life made him who he is. They're a big reason why he had problems with drugs and struggled with his feelings for many years. Whether you like him or not, Eric Clapton's life has been a wild ride. He's created incredible music that many people adore, but he's also made some serious mistakes along the way. Clapton's been through a lot. He's lost loved ones, battled drug and alcohol problems, and had to face some big family secrets. All of these hard times have played a part in making him the person he is now.